Imagine if I told you that a company became worth billions of dollars without actually having the thing it promised. Not a little lie, not a marketing exaggeration, but the entire company. And somehow, some of the smartest investors in the world handed over hundreds of millions of dollars anyway. This is the story of the Theranos, a company that convinced the world it could change medicine forever. A company worth billions that never really existed. To understand how crazy this story is, imagine a kid walks into school and says, "I built a machine that can tell you everything about your health using just one drop of blood." Answer: diabetes, heart disease, hundreds of tests, all from a tiny finger prick. No giant needles, no waiting days for results. Just one drop. Sounds impossible, right? Well, in 2003, a 19-year-old college student named Elizabeth Holmes made almost exactly that promise. She dropped out of Stanford University and started a company called Theranos. The name came from combining the words therapy and diagnosis. Her idea sounded like science fiction. Traditional blood testing usually needs several tubes of blood and large laboratory machines. Holmes claimed her company had invented a small machine that could run hundreds of tests using just a tiny drop from your fingertip. If it worked, it would completely change healthcare. People wouldn't fear needles. Tests would be cheaper. Diseases could be caught earlier. Everyone wanted this to be true. And that's exactly where the story gets interesting. Because wanting something to be true can be more powerful than reality. At first, nobody knew much about Theranos. The company operated in extreme secrecy. Employees rarely knew what other teams were doing. Visitors couldn't see much. Questions were often brushed aside. But instead of making investors nervous, the secrecy made Theranos look mysterious, special, evolutionary, like they were protecting a world-changing invention. Think about a magician. The less you know about the trick, the more impressive it seems. Theranos used the same effect. Soon, powerful people started joining the company's board. Former government officials, military leaders, famous names, people who had tremendous influence. To outsiders, this looked like proof. These important people trust the company. It must be real. But there was a hidden problem. Most of them weren't experts in blood testing. It's like asking famous football players to inspect a rocket ship. Being successful in one field doesn't automatically make you an expert in another. Still, the hype kept growing and growing and growing. Investors poured money into Theranos. Billions became hundreds of millions. The company's valuation exploded. By 2014 and 2015, Theranos was valued at around $9 billion. Elizabeth Holmes herself was being called a billionaire. The media loved her. She wore black turtlenecks similar to Steve Jobs. She spoke about changing the world. Magazine covers appeared. Television interviews followed. She became Silicon Valley's newest superstar. People weren't investing in a blood testing company anymore. They were investing in a dream. And dreams can be very expensive. But here's the question nobody seemed willing to ask. What if the machine didn't actually work? For years, Theranos claimed that its technology could perform huge numbers of tests using tiny blood samples. Yet very few outsiders had independently verified these claims. Imagine someone telling you they built a car that can fly. Everyone applauds. Investors throw money at them. Newspapers call them a genius. But nobody actually watches the car fly. That's basically what was happening. Then came the first cracks. Former employees started becoming uncomfortable. Some had seen things that didn't match the company's public story. Some worried about test accuracy. Others questioned whether the technology could do what Theranos claimed. But speaking out wasn't easy. The company aggressively protected its image. For a while, the cracks stayed hidden. Then one person started asking difficult questions. A reporter named John Carrier. While most people were celebrating Theranos, he became suspicious. The more he investigated, the stranger things became. And what he eventually uncovered would destroy everything. In 2015, explosive reporting revealed something shocking. Theranos wasn't using its famous machine for many of the tests people thought it was. Instead, the company often relied on traditional machines made by other companies. Think about ordering a self-driving car. You pay millions for revolutionary technology. Then you discover there's actually a human secretly driving the whole time. That's how serious this revelation was. The company's central promise was beginning to fall apart. And once people started looking closer, even more problems appeared. Regulators investigated. Scientists questioned the technology. Former employees came forward. Lawsuits followed. The story kept getting worse and worse and worse. Then investigators discovered something even more damaging. According to regulators, Theranos had made misleading statements about its technology, business performance, partnerships, and financial results. The SEC later described the situation as a massive fraud. One claim suggested military use. Another involved revenue projections that were wildly different from reality. Investors who believed they were funding a revolutionary health care company suddenly realized they might have been funding a story. And stories don't generate billions of dollars. Working technology does. The collapse happened fast, very fast. The same media that once celebrated the Ranos now questioned it. Partners walked away. Investors panicked. Regulators increased pressure. Employees left. A company that once looked unstoppable suddenly looked fragile, like a giant castle made of cardboard. From far away, it looked magnificent. Up close, it couldn't survive the rain. The Ranos had raised hundreds of millions of dollars from investors based largely on its claims. But those claims were now under intense scrutiny. The billion-dollar dream was evaporating. Then came the legal consequences. In 2018, federal regulators charged the Ranos, Elizabeth Holmes, and company president Sunny Balwani with fraud-related allegations. Yes, she accused them of raising more than $700 million through years of misleading statements. But the story wasn't over, not even close. The criminal trials were still ahead. Years later, juries examined mountains of evidence. The central question was simple. Did the Ranos fail because the technology was difficult? Or did it fail because investors were deliberately deceived? The courts eventually delivered their answer. Elizabeth Holmes was convicted on multiple fraud-related charges connected to defrauding investors. She was later sentenced to more than 11 years in federal prison. Sunny Balwani also received a lengthy prison sentence. The company itself disappeared. The $9 billion valuation became essentially worthless. One of Silicon Valley's brightest stars became one of its biggest cautionary tales. So what can we learn from all of this? The biggest lesson isn't about blood testing. It's about human nature. People love stories, especially stories about miracles. We want the hero to succeed. We want the invention to work. We want the future to arrive. And sometimes, when enough people believe a story, they stop checking whether it's true. The Ranos wasn't built only on technology. It was built on hope. Hope from investors. Hope from patients. Hope from journalists. Hope from the public. And hope is powerful. Powerful enough to create a $9 billion company, at least for a while. But eventually, reality always shows up, and when reality finally knocked on the Ranos' door, the entire illusion collapsed. Because in business, you can borrow trust, you can borrow attention, you can even borrow billions of dollars, but sooner or later, you have to deliver what you promised. And that was the one thing the Ranos could never do. A company worth billions didn't collapse because it lost customers. It collapsed because the thing everyone thought they were buying was never really there in the first place. And that's what makes it one of the most unbelievable business stories ever told.